Good afternoon and welcome to TechNation's Roundtable on Patient Monitors. Today we are joined by PartsSource Vice President of Inside Sales, Mike Wade, Integrity Biomedical Services Business Development Manager, John Shahbandeh, and Elite Biomedical Solutions Chief Service Officer, Glenn Schneider. TechNation Editor John Wallace will be our moderator today. Today's webinar, as usual, is eligible for 1 CE credit from the ACI, and you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey, which will be emailed 1 hour after the completion of today's webinar. Now, you must complete the survey to receive your 1 CE credit, and you'll be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. Now, just a quick reminder about our spring MD Expo. We're heading to the Hilton Baltimore Inner Harbor Hotel in Maryland from April the 7th to the 9th. So please join us for 3 days of education, networking, and the latest advances in medical technology products and services. For more details and registration details, please visit mdexposhow.com. Now, I also want to just give a quick mention about our upcoming virtual training course on how to become a medical laser safety officer. The next MLSO course is taking place in April. That's April the 18th and 19th. So for more details and registration details, please visit medicalsafety.com. There's also a handout in the handout section of your dashboard. Let's kick off today's roundtable by giving away a multi-tool. So using the questions feature on your dashboard, let me know the answer to the following trivia question. January is National Soup Month. So what region, not state, of the US is typically known for its clam chowder? I'll reveal the answer and our winner at the end of the webinar. Now, if you have any questions for our panelists, please submit your questions anytime using the questions feature on the webinar dashboard. So, John, I will hand over to you to start today's discussion on patient monitors.
Thank you, Linda. I'm excited to have everyone here today, including our subject matter experts. So we'll jump right in with our first question. Mike, we'll let you go first. How are HTM teams deciding when to repair in-house versus when to use a flat rate depot model for telemetry and bedside monitors like the Philips MX40?
Thanks, John, for the question, and big thanks to TechNation for the opportunity to be on the group right now. I think a lot of HTM teams are matching the repair path against things like complexity, speed to return, and how repeatable the failure is. Quickly diagnosed, high-frequency fixes should stay in-house, and anything that turns into more of a board-level complexity or requires excess time should move to a flat rate type of a depot pathway. When the things that we see that make most sense for in-house teams are batteries, leads, housings, known module repairs, and monitor swap outs to keep rooms online. Also, repairs that you already have parts and you know the test procedures and have a documented workflow. So that you can keep those parts up the same day or even next day. When it makes sense to send things out for a depot repair would be more of, like I said, board level transmitters that require specific tools or programming, or things that just require deeper diagnostics and could be an unpredictable amount of time. Complex repairs sometimes have special equipment that go along with them, or a special skill set or experience that can make that challenging, equaling send out for repair. But I think what it comes down to is the time to repair, and BMETs are too valuable to be tied up in inefficient repairs. Probably the simple way to think about this is if it's a quick known fix, keep it in-house. If it's a complex or an uncertain repair, send it on out for flat rate depot.
That's a lot of good information, Mike. Thank you very much. And John, we'll hand it over to you, the same question.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike hit the nail on the head, really. For us, we're a depot repair company, Integrity Biomedical Services, and a lot of the things we do see are transmitters. A lot of the things we do see are, we only deal with space labs and neon coding, but a lot of things that are coming in are the things that I think might slow down the in-house biomed. So they have so many other things to work on that I think if it's something that will mess with their efficiency and if it slows them down, I think it makes more sense to kind of send it out to try to, have the people that do the component level troubleshooting, that know exactly what the fix is, that can make the quick turnaround time and get their equipment back to them. I think that's really important, and I think that's when in-house biomeds need to make the decision of, do I want to spend, an hour trying to fix this, or can I just send it out and get it back in a couple days? So I totally agree with Mike.
All right, thank you. And Glenn, what can you add?
So I agree also. I think departments have to make decisions like, what are their staffing levels? If they don't have they have to balance, what's the most economical to work on, most cost effective. That if how many do you have in a pool? Do you have extras that you can send it out and have a 2-week turnaround or a 5-day turnaround time, whatever that would be. So there's some balance in how you would manage that. I think if you've got a staff that is very well trained, then why not send your low level infusion devices, for example, out and have those be done either by a third party or send them out for repair, so that they can focus on the high cost repairs on monitoring in-house instead of sending it out. But there's, again, like Mike and John were saying, there's a balance between how repairs can turn into days if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't have the appropriate parts. And I think that's the challenge, is figuring out, finding that sweet spot where, hey, these we're going to send out, or we're going to do these type of repairs, like Mike was mentioning, these type of repairs we'll go ahead and do, but if it's anything beyond that, we'll send it out. I think that's a manager or a director can help with that, but I think that's the appropriate way to do it.
Sounds good. Sounds also like the biomeds will kind of, the more they do it, the more they will realize, hey, this is something I need to send off. So thank you so much for sharing that. This next question, we'll start with you, John. And go ahead and mention your company name, please, each of you, for this question. What makes your company a long-term partner instead of just a repair shop?
Yeah, so our company, Integrity Biomedical Services, we've been in business for 15 years. Just had our 15th year anniversary, June 1st of this year. So, we've come a long way. We have a lot of experience with Space Labs Neon Coding, and I think one thing that a lot of these biomeds need is someone that is consistent with their communication, consistent with their turnaround time. For us, we're ISO certified. We have a 5-day turnaround time for Space Labs, 10-day turnaround time for Neon Coding, and we're really just upfront with everything. So we have our price list, we have our turnaround time. There's this thing that we just communicate to every biomed when they start speaking to us. We're trying to be reliable. We try to do our best every single day. So really the whole thing about being a partner instead of just a repair shop, it's a relationship that you build with all these people. So when I go to all these shows and all these conferences, I'm seeing the people that I talk to on the phone every day. And for me, that is more important than just, hey, I need a repair shop that can just fix this for me real quick. We try to get to know you. We try to understand the problem. We try to see if there's fixes that we can get in the future. So there's a lot of things that we do that we try to, fix before it even happens, because we're not asking you a lot of questions up front, but there's a lot of things that, hey, how many transmitters do you think you'll be sending us? What are you expecting to fix in the near future? There's a lot of things that we try to get on the front end, so that we try to just make it an easy relationship for everyone, because I think that will also help the efficiency of the biomed in-house to not have to worry about, when am I going to get this back? When can I get this back on a patient? And that's one of the things that we focus on the most, is just getting back your equipment in a timely manner, and we try to do our best every day.
Sounds good. Thank you, John. Glenn, same question. What makes your company a long-term partner instead of just a repair shop?
So my history has been working in hospitals. I've had about 36 years working in hospitals as a tech. I started out as a tech and worked my way up. And so I understand the impact of not having equipment for patients when they need it. Now, I know that there's a lot of good companies out there, and I don't want to throw shade on anybody. So I just want to say that we feel like we have a commitment to quality. And John said exactly what any good company would want to do, is be a partner. This is a partnership. It's not, hey, you know, it's more of a partnership than it is a business relationship. And ISO certifications is a good way. Commitment to quality is a good way to show that you care. And last culture I came from was a children's hospital, and they share everything. All the children's hospitals share all their information, and I know the adult world's very similar in some regards, but the culture that have here is very similar to that. That I would rather fix your device and worry about covering costs or things like that than I am, let's get it fixed and get it back in play. And then if there's a situation, we'll figure it out. We've never had any problems, but I think that is key. That like John said, you're there to back you up. We're here to back you up. And if in any instance, whether it's training, we provide training. We provide like I said, quality repairs. We ISO certification 13485, FDA registered. We actually manufacture parts, so it's our butts on the line, like everybody's. If we don't do you right. So like I said, there's a lot of good companies out there. We feel we've got a great platform, and we would like to, we'll help in any way we can.
And real quick, Glenn, you're with Elite.
Elite, yeah. So that's why I've been with Elite for about 2.5 years, and we've been in business for. We just had our 13th anniversary. So.
Okay. And then Mike, if you'll mention your company name and how your company can be a long-term partner instead of just a repair shop.
Yep, I'm with PartsSource, and I think one of the big differences for us is we're not a repair shop. Our view is more of a long-term partnership. Includes a company that can make the entire repair process more predictable, have guardrails around it, and just easy to run. And I think that becomes very important when you have multiple OEMs, multiple devices, multiple sites, and all kinds of failures that go along with that. And our view also is that we think we're taking, in some cases, a process that can be historically outdated, and put a little bit of modernization into it. Some of the pain points that we see in the field are multiple vendors, lack of visibility to where the repair is at in the process, some inconsistent pricing, and some quality that can vary from supplier to supplier. The panelists on this call are amazing, and they have quality is their top priority. We're no different than that. Our solution is really meant to be repeatable, consolidate suppliers, flat rate pricing, and have this all wrapped up into a tech-enabled interface that can allow somebody to look at the repair, if they choose to do so, where it's at in the repair process, and when they can expect this to be back in use for clinical access. And I think when you have all those things in place, what you begin to see over the course of 12, 24, 36 months is you start building usable insight into things like, why are assets failing? Where are they failing? Is it an ICU? Is it an emergency room? and really like things that are driving the most spend in terms of parts and models and risk of downtime. So using all this, you can really look to implement things like updated PM cycles and how can you better avoid disruption. So we like to be more of a process than the repair house. So that's really the PartsSource take on this.
Thank you, Mike. The next question, Glenn, we'll let you go first. What patient monitoring devices are the most problematic to support, and what makes them problematic, I guess?
So, well, so we do depot repair service as well as sell parts and things. And telemetry is always a big repair item. Anything that they can drop on the floor or in the toilet, or they can break, anything that transport monitors, those kind of things seem to be the high volume items or the big items. We don't see a lot of bedside style monitors, just because a lot of times IV poles are the only thing that really damage those when they ram an IV pole in them. But the one thing that we've seen a large increase in is gas modules. They're one of those items that is very difficult for an in-house department to support, respiratory and anesthesia modules, mainly because it's not something that you get a lot of training on, or you can get training on some of those items. And as a matter of fact, we're going to do a presentation at Baltimore on the ESCO version. We're doing a hands-on workshop there, hands-on training workshop there. We've kind of put together a pretty sophisticated or pretty efficient process, and we're doing a lot of repairs on we do Philips and GE only. So, but we've seen a large increase in those devices because of the lack of OEM support. Same thing with things like the Philips MX40. The OEM doesn't necessarily want you to repair them; they want you to send them back to them. And so, from our perspective, those are the devices we probably see the most of.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, hopefully my audio is a bit better. But it is, when we look at serviceability, we see that a lot of things are serviceable. Where problems come in is around wireless device management, hospital networks, software versions. That creates some challenge. And I think, also in general, across patient monitoring, in addition to OEM support, there's a lot of great companies out there that can help support things. And that usually means that things move in and out faster, better cost control. But areas where we see the most drag are around some smaller OEMs and some of those lower market share type of OEMs. It can be more challenging to find aftermarket parts, tested parts, replacement parts. Typically, large install bases equal more availability of non-OEM options. So that's one area we see drag. Another, again, is the monitoring systems have a strong dependency on wireless connectivity and also software version dependencies. That can be an issue for servicing. When you look at hospital IT infrastructures as well, that creates also challenge, and it creates a challenge with diagnosing and properly identifying failures. Working for an OEM in the patient monitoring field, one of the things that surprised me was how connected patient monitors are across a hospital system. Most hospitals have moved towards they are connected from the point you walk in, and there's not a whole lot of areas in the hospital where you don't have connectivity. And so just thinking about it, it literally touches every single area of the hospital. And I think that's really unique to patient monitoring alone. So in many cases, it's not necessarily the device to repair, it's the IT environment around it that might not be ready. It's network constraints, it's security settings, and some of the handoffs between biomed and IT that can quickly become a bottleneck.
Thank you, Mike. And then John, over to you.
Yeah, going off what Mike just brought up, two things for us here at Integrity. There's two things that really we don't do software, right? So we can't change software. We don't upgrade software. So that is one of the things that we can do an upgrade on a unit that will work, but we don't do anything besides component level troubleshooting, right? So that's one of the problems that we have is you know, these OEMs, Space Labs and Young we are two of the smaller ones, but really the one of the things that I see a lot is the telemetry. So a lot of times, going off what Glenn brought up, is these transmitters, I don't know what is going on with them, but they're dropped in the toilet. I swear they're thrown against the wall sometimes, but when they get here and we repair them, we'll send them back out. And then one thing is that if it still isn't working, then is it the IT issue? Is it the actual antenna system? So then that leads to a whole nother troubleshoot where then we have to send the receiver in, do a lot more troubleshooting to see what the real problem is. So that's some of the things that we've come across recently in the past probably 6 months or so. But yeah, really the software and telemetry, those are two big ones for us that we find workarounds. We find things that do work, but those are two things that it's just a problem. The software itself, the component level troubleshooting, we're really good at it, but I wish there was something we could do about the software.
Understand. That's a good bit of information to have there. Moving on to question number 4. Do you see hospitals using data from patient monitor service histories, such as failure trends, parts consumption, and downtime metrics, to inform predictive maintenance and lifecycle planning? Mike, if you can answer that one first this time.
Yep, thanks, John. We do see that, and it's a trend that's accelerating. Health systems are getting more serious about using service history data to move from a more reactive repair strategy to proactive planning, and especially for high utilization fleets like patient monitors. The same health systems that are going in this direction are also relying on partners like us more than ever to provide that real access time to this type of data. And in some of the areas that we see hospitals using this are failure trend analysis. So what's failing repeatedly and what's the interval? So looking at, is this an equipment problem, or is this maybe an opportunity for some clinical training? Also tracking parts consumption data and just looking to see what's driving the most of my spend. And equally important, how can I look at my inventory strategy to help maybe offset some of that by keeping it on site and decreasing days that you would have to go out for repair and increasing uptime on those assets. So, we also see when hospitals turn this into action, there's a point here of execution and actionability, and being able to adjust PM schedules based on real failure patterns, not just 6-12-month calendar cadences, is important. And by doing that, you can better plan for spares, you can better plan for battery replacements or accessory replacements, and for just large scale PMs of fleet assets. And overall, this is going to create a better access to these devices for clinicians, and that's really what this is all about. At the end of the day, hospitals operate on very small single-digit margins, and I think making data-driven decisions is critical to ensure clinical assets are available when they're needed. And it's fundamental to our core, which is ensuring healthcare is on, and all of these things help contribute to the bottom line.
Thank you very much. And then I just want to ask, this is our first time doing the roundtable format like this. When other people are speaking, if you can mute yourself just to make sure there's no feedback. I don't know if that might be impacting some of the audio we're hearing. But if you don't mind doing that, and then of course unmute yourself when you answer. I sometimes forget to do that. But moving over to John, if you can answer that same question, what are you seeing with hospitals using data from patient monitor service histories, such as failure trends, parts consumption, and downtime metrics?
Yeah, so this question actually, you know, in the year 2026 of AI, I've heard of a couple hospitals in Oklahoma using AI to do this kind of analysis and prediction, so that when they know, yeah, a battery's about to go out, it will tell these biomeds that, hey, here is your schedule. This is what it's going to look like in the next few months. Here is your whole list that's laid out. And a lot of these biomeds, I went to a conference a couple months ago, a meeting actually, and one of these biomeds, he was telling me how much money he has actually saved the hospital from using AI to help him plan this whole entire predictive maintenance out. So really, I think if a hospital is kind of already doing that, and then if they add in that AI element, I think there could be some real beneficial economical changes that all these hospitals can take part of, especially the rural ones in Oklahoma. A lot of these hospitals, you know, they have these biomeds that, you know, there's so much going on, and maybe there's one in-house biomed, maybe there's two, but if they use, you know, AI to the best of their ability, then I see a big change with this predictive maintenance. I think it's a big deal, and I think it's very beneficial for everyone.
Good point. Glenn, if you could answer that question.
Sure. When I was in-house, we used a lot of those tools to prevent from downtime, right? That's the whole point of it, is that's preventive maintenance. And it kind of goes back to one of the first question when you're talking about staffing levels and different things. It's work smarter, not harder kind of thing. And if you can, like in Mike's example and John talking about batteries, if you can say, okay, we know that this battery typically lasts a certain amount of time, even if the manufacturer has no recommended replacement frequency, you can say, okay, our historical data shows that these things last 18 months or 2 years, and you put them on an annual or a 18-month replacement schedule, and you replace them before they fail. It saves so much time on your technician's part, but just in all the logistics behind a repair, right? From the time that the thing stops working, or there's a suspect they suspect it's not working, all the time and trouble of all the clinician's time, the time to transport it to and from the department, the time for somebody to evaluate it, the time it sits in wait before somebody can look at it, that all of that gets eliminated. All that time gets eliminated, and it keeps the equipment in the staff's hands. So I think any, I'm not going to say any, but I think most departments today have some type of analytics, whether it's an AI or some type of using their CMMS. I think it's been talked about for many years. I don't think it really caught on as much as it has in the last few years, but it definitely is a valuable tool. Like Mike said, that it's going to save you money, as both John and Mike mentioned, but it's also going to save you time and your staff. It's going to make it just keeps the equipment in play, and that's the whole point. There are certain pieces of equipment where you've got a lot of them, and if they go down a lot, you either have to rent or you have to add more equipment, and it's not necessarily the most economical thing to do. Not everybody has the ability to add, and rental just adds to your cost. So I definitely think that it's important to use those metrics, whether it's going through error logs and determining, hey, we identified that every time we get this error, this fails. That if that error, that now you can see that your devices have trended into that failure mode, then you can predict, say, replace that part on a regular basis instead of waiting for it to fail. Again, a lot of it is cost versus anything. I mean, like Mike said, you got thin margins that the hospital's operating on, and there are intangibles though that go along with that. That it may cost a little bit more, but you're saving other places. You're improving patient outcomes, and having the data and the metrics to be able to prove that to leadership at your hospital is important. So that if you can say, like Mike said, I take this data, I've made these changes, and now we've seen a decrease in repairs. It may not save you any money, or it may cost you a little bit more, but look, the patient outcomes are better. There's no downtime for the clinicians, things like that. And some of that is hard to measure. But I think it's very important, and I think most departments, if not, definitely should be utilizing it.
Thank you, Glenn. This next question is, I might redo the wording a little bit here, bear with me, but how important is consistent turnaround time for your customers or for a department, and what expectations do customers have for repair partners when equipment needs to be back in service quickly? I know y'all have all talked about communication and expectations, but John, we'll start with you if you could answer that question.
Yeah, so one thing for us is that turnaround time is something that we, that's our main point when we're talking to a lot of different customers, potential customers. 5-day turnaround time for space labs and 10 for neon coded, and we stand by that. That for us, there's this rule that we have that imagine this patient monitor on a family member and the quality that it needs to receive, but also know that if this is in for repair, that means it's not at the hospital. So there's this thing where all of our technicians, they are aware of all of that. So there's this thing that they know the quality that everyone is expecting, and they know that there is this turnaround time. Now it's 5 days and 10 days. Now for us, that is our typical time. To some biomeds, they are wowed by that. Now, if we could, have it even better, that'd be great. For us, that is probably the most important thing here at Integrity, is getting your equipment back to you in the most timely manner, because we realize how important it is for these biomeds. And if they don't know how to work on it, if they can get it to us quick, we'll get it back even quicker. That is it. That is just how important it is to us. It has been customer service is one of the things that Integrity stands on, and we need to be reliable and just do the best we can. And that is literally that is Integrity's goal for every one of our customers. So not from the perspective of a biomed, really. That's just coming from a depot repair shop. But for us, we understand how important it is to get your equipment back to you.
Thank you, John. And that downtime too, that everyone's been speaking about, if they know how long it's going to be out, they know, how many backups they have or whatever. But Glenn, if you could answer that question as well next, just the consistent turnaround time for the customer or the department, and what expectations exist for the equipment and when it needs to be back in service.
Sure, I think everybody's experienced the increase in OEM turnaround time for many different, not just patient monitoring, but for many different devices in the hospital. I think the hope was the COVID debacle of the OEMs trying to keep up with everything has it's pushed a lot of people into a third-party partnership, like with John, with Integrity, or with PartsSource, or with Elite, whoever. And like John said, the goal is to get the equipment back to you as soon as possible. Most OEMs have several week turnaround time, and I think it's important. This all goes back to how many devices do you have? Well, it goes to skill level of your technicians to be able to handle the low-hanging fruit and get the stuff turned around and back in the fleet, if possible, or back on the floor. But the repairs that they're not able to maintain, absolutely, you want as quick a turnaround time as possible. I think some of this, it depends on the age of the equipment. Some of the older equipment, it might be a little bit, those can be faster, just because there's more parts readily available, secondhand parts that, you know, I think everybody knows that, or should know that, when you send it in for depot repair to a company like ours, it might have a part, if it has an OEM part on it, it probably came out of another device. And that's not wrong. It's a recertified part, and you verify if it functions and it works, you put it back together. Some parts are new. It just depends. Depends on availability, depends on cost, because we have to keep it cost effective for us in order to make it cost effective for you, the hospitals. So, and turnaround time is a key component to that. Best turnaround time without sacrificing quality. It's like reiterating what John said. I think that's very important. And again, I think that goes along with that partnership that you have with your customers or with the hospitals.
All right, sounds good. Mike, if you can add on to that.
Yeah, turnaround time is critical. These are high utilization assets, and downtime meets clinical workflow very quickly in all of these. And I think that's why also consistency matters almost as much as raw speed, because in-house teams and HTM teams need to plan fleet availability, and clinicians need to plan patient capacity, and both need to do so with confidence. So what we see, I think, matches up a lot with what the others have seen. Typically it's a 7-8 day turnaround time for items. Best in class is really around that 5-day mark. The good news here is that what we see is ISO's companies like on this roundtable are really leading the way to improve turnaround times without sacrificing quality. Some OEMs are averaging 30-day turnaround times. So it's this group that's really doing some hard work to decrease days of turnaround time and increase uptime the best that we possibly can. For us, what a good depot repair partner looks like is no delay intake model. So that's where flat rate pricing becomes important, because the work starts typically very quickly, and you don't have to wait for a quote, and you don't have to plan for an upcharge, and you don't have approval lags and things like that. Quality is really, years back, ISO 1345, 9001, all these ISO certifications were more of a differentiator. But I think now with the current times, it's the standard. And that's a great thing for our industry, is that quality has become so important that ISO 1345 is the, that is what everybody has now. And really, if you're working with a supplier that does not have that, it's, you should take a good hard look at what the outcomes are, and what the risks are associated with that. One interesting note too is that what we've seen is between 5 to 10% of repairs are actually still under warranty. And so when you're sending in like these turnaround times, things get hung up in different pockets of outliers. But we see, and then that 5 to 10% of repairs that are still under warranty, that's something you've paid for a 6 to 12-month warranty. And so being able to like track that, being able to trigger that, and not have it go further for 10 days, 15 days, I think that's a good thing for companies to be able to track, tag, and identify quickly. So you know, the bottom line here is fast is good. Predictably fast is really what keeps clinicians from feeling a downtime.
All right, thank you very much. And then our next question, we'll let Glenn go first for this one. As remote patient monitoring models expand, what are some best practices and tools for providing technical support and preventative maintenance off-site without a hands-on physical inspection?
So this is something we're not as we're seeing it, right? Everybody's seeing the wearable field or wearable monitoring is growing. Everybody heals better at home. The hospital's the worst place to be in order to heal. But some of the things that we are working on is from a wearable perspective, and we're trying to mitigate the amount of time spent troubleshooting or trying to fix it. It becomes a challenge, right? If it's not in front of you, or you've got a patient who is doing the troubleshooting because it's in their hands. Some of the things we are trying to, we're working on is what would make, or what would that look like from our perspective. Some of the things we've talked about was a robust training program for the clinicians to provide the patients, as far as making sure they understand how the device works. Now, we have a broad range of patients and their abilities and things like that, and that would all vary depending on the patient. But make sure the patient understands the device, and have built-in check marks. Like, for example, if the device is to transmit back to a remote location and it doesn't come through, have some type of a excuse me, and possibly an AI or a bot that can report back and say, hey, we didn't get a reading. Can you help? Can you figure out what's going on? Or do you have it connected properly? Things like that. Also, a automatic replacement plan. So if it goes on a patient and it's on the patient for a certain period of time, things like insulin pumps and things like that, they stay with the patient, and they are there for literally forever. Possibly have some type of a replacement plan over a certain period of time that would prevent the device from failing. If it fails typically in 2 years, 4 years, maybe every 3 years, you replace that device and bring them back and refurb them, so you have a constant replacement process. Those are just kind of things. When I saw this question, I thought about it as looking forward, right? As the hospitals and everybody is getting into this remote world, it's just going to get more and more complex for us to be able, or the biomeds to be able to troubleshoot and manage that equipment.
Thank you, Glenn. And Mike, same question for you.
Yeah, I think as monitoring, remote patient monitoring is expanding, as is actually monitoring the monitors themselves remotely, and that's kind of, you know, our take on that is the remote monitoring works when teams rely less on looking at points of failure and more on signal detection, standardized diagnostics, and some pre-failure type of indicators. to share some best practices that we see right now with people that are monitoring things remotely are 24/7 device visibility. So a lot of times in some remote diagnostics, you see indicators of when something has a problem. And I think it's equally important to understand when things are running properly and as they should. Connecting to CMMS applications is a big deal as well, because it's not just about getting a warning, it's understanding the status of the device, understanding the status of the service, are parts on order, do you have everything you need to have lined up in place to have that asset back up and running, and then being able to, like we've talked about, layer on AI-enabled diagnostics and help that troubleshooting. That's something that is quickly coming upon us, and it's good to see that. It's good to hear that some of those hospitals in Oklahoma are using that. I think there's still some advancements to come, but adoption comes with advancements, and we are getting there very, very quickly. One of the things that we've seen moving forward as well is more of a VR type of a guided biomed support network, and being able to have somebody physically see what you're seeing on the site in front of an asset and walk you through some of that troubleshooting and share some best practices and the path for repair. So it's really, it's about fewer surprises, detecting issues earlier, resolving things remotely, and just really being able to reserve deeper repair for cases that really need bench work and that extra set of eyes on it. So a slightly different take, but I think like the end here is really similar, whether you're remotely monitoring or whether you're going across an entire network. It's those types of things that help make a difference.
Thank you, Mike. And John, if you can share your thoughts on this question as well.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Mike and Glenn. I mean, they both brought up some really good points. The AI, the bots, VR even. I think if there's like a standardization across the entire process, across the devices themselves, then yeah, there's a predictability type of world we can live in, and I think that's kind of where we're headed. And one of these things is, yeah, this technology, it is crazy. It's crazy what it can do now. And there's this thing that one of these biomeds told me, is that you're not supposed to really lean on it as much and kind of like use it as a replacement for work. Really, you're supposed to be using all of this as a tool, which really kind of set the tone for, okay, yeah, this is technology is always changing, of course, and the more we use it as a tool, I think all of these biomeds will really get better and have a better predictability for everything. So I think if there's clear documentation across the board, there's going to be like a consistent schedule that AI can learn off of, VR can show you. I think all of that is kind of where we're headed, and whether we like it or not, I mean, it's here. So that's one of these things that I'm still trying to wrap my head around still to this day. But I think there's this tool that we now have, and yeah, it's nowhere near where it's going to be. It's still relatively new. So I think once we all kind of get on the right path and kind of see that, yeah, technology is changing with or without us, I think that is what's going to help this preventive maintenance and kind of help the remote monitoring side of patient monitoring.
Thank you, John. I do want to remind everyone that we are taking questions. We have some questions coming in, so we'll transition into the Q&A session. If we don't get to your question, we will have our panelists be able to reach out to you and answer your question with an email. So if you have a question, please submit it. If we don't get to it, we will get you an answer at our earliest convenience. One question that we had come in is, what support can help a team stay ahead of PM schedules and avoid spikes and downtime when multiple monitors fail around the same time? Mike, you want to take that one first?
Sure. I think in a lot of cases, history equals future. And if you can look at historical failures on these devices, and Glenn had mentioned, an 18-month life cycle of some batteries. If you can look at the prior service history and like take as much data as humanly possible, and then spin that through what we're talking about, like some AI type of generation, we can understand and be better with predicting what those types of failures could potentially be, and use, work our PM schedules around that. I think a lot of times we look at, maybe dates, and we look at 6 and 12-month intervals of PM schedules, but that's more of just like a calendar cadence. I think looking at prior history helps us better map out what the actual serviceability and what potential failures will be down the road. Good question, though.
Thank you, Mike. John, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think for avoiding downtime spikes and kind of being not reactive but proactive to what you think is going to happen. So, for example, if you're working on a hematology, a Celldyne or a Medonic unit or whatever, you could, in the future, you could do a little pre-maintenance before it becomes an actual issue. So I think there's some things you can do while you're out in the field or working on different things. Just kind of be proactive about it, and I think having that kind of mindset will help you, avoid a huge downtime spike, which would not be good for the hospital, of course.
All right, and Glenn?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is where are the devices being used might be an indicator. You might have a high failure in one area versus another. ER, for example, is probably going to have higher failure rate just because they tend to be in a hurry with everything. And whereas in another area that is not such a high intense area for the patient monitors to be used, maybe there's a different schedule for those, or just trying to identify those, and like John or Mike said, it's not necessarily has to be a calendar. It can be, hey, when we see this happen, this is exactly what we're going to do. Boom, and we do it. Just to add on to what John and Mike already said.
All right, we're getting close to the 1 hour mark. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question real quick. Apart from the cables and accessories, how do you decide what repair parts and how many to stock on a monthly basis? So Glenn, if you can take that one first. They're asking, apart from cables and accessories, how do you decide what repair parts and how many to stock on a monthly basis?
So using the data from your CMMS, how many, what's the highest failure rate or part that's replaced in your devices is going to give you an indicator of what you need to stock. And using that data, I think that's the key, is using the data to determine what are the high failure parts, what's our inventory. I mean, you can take how many devices do you have, how many failures have you had, how many times that part been replaced. I mean, there's data points that you can pick. How many times has each part that's been replaced, how many times has it been replaced in the last year? Divided by 12. And that'll give you a pretty good indicator of how many you should probably have, or maybe a couple more, that you can make sure that you have enough based on historical data. You can go back a year, 2 years, go back however long, and see what those numbers are. And it's not, collecting the data is the hardest part of it. And if you've got a good solid CMMS, that's not even that too difficult. And a lot of it might be having the time to do it because everybody's so busy. So take that time, because it'll definitely give you an insight to what you're spending, as well as what you need to have on hand to reduce the downtime for those devices.
And John, can you add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah, the data itself, I mean, for us, it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. So it's kind of hard for us to determine, you know, what do we need on hand? What will we need in the future? That's kind of the hard part of the business we're in. But one of the things is, yeah, just look at the data, look at what has been coming in. If you can make a prediction on what you're going to be seeing month to month, then you know, you'll have something to go off of, and that's really what it's all about. Is the data itself is, you know, we can't just ignore it, you know. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but and it is hard. It's hard to predict what you need on inventory. You know, it is not an easy thing. But if you go look at the history and see what has been replaced, what will be needing replacing, you can have a better idea of what you'll be needing.
Thank you, John. And then Mike, if you can chime in real quick before I hand it back over to Linda.
Yep. Yeah. The only thing I would layer in here is adding criticality of the parts. Are there certain parts that render a machine completely out of service? And prioritizing in terms of what are those parts, and also looking at potential lead times. We see, you know, post-COVID volumes and lead times still have not completely normalized. And so looking at lead times is an important part for a lot of hospital organizations to not only understand what to keep in stock, but how to minimize downtime as a result of having parts on order and not in hand.
Thank you very much. And then Linda, if you're ready, you can take us out.
Okay, thank you so much. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time today and for a really great and informative discussion. Thank you so much. I'd like to encourage everyone to visit our panelist company websites to find out more about the products and services they provide for the industry. So please visit PartsSource.com, EliteBiomedicalSolutions.com, and last but not least, IntegrityBiomed.com. Now, as promised, the answer to today's trivia question is New England. So congratulations to our winner, Rita Vitella in Florida. And also a quick reminder, you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey, which will be emailed 1 hour after the completion of today's webinar. You must complete the survey to receive your 1 CE credit from the ACI, and you'll be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us at webinar@mdpublishing.com. We'll be back next month with another roundtable discussion on the subject of real-time location systems. So please visit webinarwednesday.live for more details and complimentary registration. So thank you all once again for your time today, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
tomorrow, John.
I'll see you, Glenn.